My mother waited until everyone had dessert before she destroyed my life. 30 relatives filled my grandmother's dining room, laughing under Christmas lights, while my sister showed off another sketch of the wedding she called her destiny. Then my mother tapped her wine glass and smiled at me. Pay for your sister's $93,000 dream wedding or you're dead to this family. Nobody laughed. I looked at my father because he always hated public scenes. Instead, he pushed back his chair, stood up, and looked at on the table. Every person here agrees, he said. You owe her this. My name is Coralie Voss, and that was the moment I realized I had never actually belonged to the people who raised me. I had spent 12 years building a medical software company from nothing. My sister had spent 12 years quitting jobs, chasing trends, and posting about luxury lifestyles she expected someone else to finance. That someone had always been me. The room stayed quiet, and sisters lowered their eyes. Cousins nodded. My grandmother crossed herself. I told them I wasn't paying. My sister burst into tears. My mother whispered that I would beg to come home. By sunrise, my phone had rung 122 times. Then I listened to voicemail number 54 and heard my father say something that changed everything. Voicemail number 54 didn't begin with crying. It began with laughter. My father thought he had already hung up, so I heard glasses clinking and my uncle asking whether I would finally stop acting rich. Then my father answered with a calm voice I had never heard before. She'll fold. She always does. She still thinks we're her family. The message ended, but I kept staring at my phone. Not because they wanted my money, because they had planned this. I spent the rest of the night opening old bank records, forgotten emails, and folders I hadn't touched in years. Every emergency loan for my sister, every mortgage payment I covered for my parents, every credit card balance they promised to repay. The total climbed higher and higher. $211,000. Not one payment had ever come back. At noon, my mother left another message. If you love us, you'll save your sister from humiliation. 5 minutes later, my sister called. If you don't pay, everyone will know what kind of woman you are. I almost blocked them. Then an unfamiliar number appeared. An older man introduced himself as my parents' attorney. His voice shook. There are documents you need to see before your family sells something that legally belongs to you. I met the attorney in a diner 2 towns away because he refused to come to my office. He carried a worn leather folder and looked like a man who hadn't slept. I represented your grandfather, he said. After he died, I represented your parents. He slid a stack of papers across the table. My grandfather had created a family trust. The lake house, farmland, and a small commercial building downtown had never belonged to my parents. They belonged to me. I was the only grandchild who had worked in the family business before college, and he had written one condition into the trust. The assets stayed under my control unless I willingly surrendered them. I looked up. My parents know this. The attorney nodded. They've always known. My mother wasn't trying to collect money for a wedding. She was trying to pressure me into signing documents hidden inside the wedding contracts. The attorney opened the last envelope. There was a copy of an email my father had sent my sister. Let her think it's about family. Once she signs, everything becomes ours. My hands started shaking. Then the reached into his briefcase one last time. There's something else, he whispered. Your grandfather knew this day might come, so he recorded a video for you. I watched my grandfather appear on the old screen with flour on his shirt and grease on his hands. He never dressed up for cameras. He trusted work more than speeches. If you're seeing this, Coralie, someone in our family decided blood was worth more than character. He looked straight into the lens. I already know who. My throat closed. He explained that my grandmother had begged him not to leave everything under legal protection. She believed love would keep people honest. He believed temptation would expose them. So he hired accountants, investigators, and one retired judge to document every loan, transfer, and false promise my parents ever made. They won't stop with the wedding, he said. They will come after your company, your home, your future. Let them. Truth needs rope to catch liars. The video ended with a combination to a safe hidden beneath the floor of the lake house. I drove there before sunrise and opened it alone. Inside were ledgers, signed confessions, and photographs of cash changing hands across 20 years. Then I found one sealed envelope with my name on it. The handwriting wasn't my grandfather's. It belonged to my mother, and across the front the envelope was yellow with age, but my mother's handwriting wasn't mistakable. Across the front she had written, "If Coralie opens this, I failed." My fingers refused to move. I finally broke the seal and unfolded 3 pages. The letter wasn't an apology. It was a confession. She admitted that my sister was never supposed to know about the trust. My grandfather had believed I would protect the family because I was responsible, while my sister would only see the inheritance as a prize. Then came the line that stole the air from my lungs. Your father promised me that if we kept pushing you to succeed, one day you would become wealthy enough to carry all of us. I kept reading. Every scholarship I earned had been celebrated because it saved them money. Every promotion had become another excuse to ask for more. Every holiday had been planned around what they needed from me. The final paragraph was written in different ink. If your father ever demands the inheritance, don't trust him. There is something about your sister's wedding that he can never let the family discover. My phone vibrated. My cousin Emma sent one photograph. My father was standing outside the lake house. He was holding a gasoline can. I stayed inside because running was exactly what my father expected. Through the dusty window, I watched him walk toward the gasoline can swinging against his leg. He looked tired, older, almost frightened, but I had learned that fear was his favorite costume. My phone buzzed again. Emma had not stopped taking pictures. Behind my father stood my sister wearing her engagement ring and a white coat thrown over her pajamas. She was carrying a metal lock box. "The safe," I whispered. I opened the back door and crossed the dock before they noticed. Grandfather had hidden a second camera beneath the roof years ago. I remembered helping him wire it after storm. The recorder was still there. I pressed play. Voices filled the speaker. My father said, "Once the wedding money arrives, we burn the old records." My sister answered, "And if Corley refuses?" He laughed. Then everyone learns Wappied for her first company. The world tilted. I had built that business with scholarships, night shifts, and borrowed laptops. Then my sister spoke again. She never knew the money came from the account emptied after Grandma died. A car door slammed behind me hard. I turned around expecting my father. It was my grandmother. She stepped out of the car with her cane in one hand and a police officer behind her. The officer helped her across the gravel. But the look on her face could have carried her 1,000 miles without assistance. My father went pale. "Mom, this isn't what it looks like." She ignored him. My grandmother looked at me and held small silver key. "I prayed you would never need this." The key opened the lockbox my sister had been carrying. She tried to pull it away, but the officer stopped her. Inside were bank statements, forged signatures, and a life insurance policy from the year my grandfather died. The beneficiary wasn't my grandmother. It wasn't me. It was my father, Nabadispoke. My grandmother's hands were shaking. "I found those papers hidden in your father's workshop," she whispered. I was afraid to believe what they meant. The officer quietly asked whether I wanted to file a report. Before I could answer, my sister started crying. Real crying. She looked at me instead of our father. "I never wanted the wedding," she said. "He told me Grandpa didn't die naturally." My father took one step backward, then another, and he ran toward the lake. I didn't chase him. The officer did, but my grandmother touched my arm and said, "Enough." My father was found before sunrise sitting at the end of the empty dock where my grandfather used to fish. He wasn't hiding from the police. He was hiding from the truth. The investigation uncovered everything. The insurance policy, the forged papers, the stolen account, and the plan to force me into signing away the trust under the cover of a wedding. My sister accepted a plea deal after giving investigators every message he ever sent her. I visited my mother once. She sat alone in the house she had protected more than her children. She asked whether I could forgive her. I told her forgiveness was not the same as returning. The bakery became a scholarship foundation in my grandfather's and grandmother's names. The lake house became hers again. My company stayed mine. At Christmas, I set one extra plate on my table for the family I chose. Emma, my grandmother, old friends, and 3 young engineers who had nowhere else to go. My phone stayed silent. No demands, no bargains, no tears purchased with guilt. I finally belonged to myself completely. The end.